In this video, we're going to cover modifications to the Topwater PDL, such as a rod holder and removable storage tray for the drive unit, silencing seat squeak and rudder noise, talk about rod staging, as well as throwing things at my kayak and trying to light it on fire. Welcome to Kayak Fishing Works. In a paddle kayak, I'm used to laying the rod down in front of me. That way I can paddle along. If I need to pick the rod up, I don't have to make noise pulling it out of a rod holder. With a PDL drive, you can rest the rod on top of the drive unit, but it wants to slide off to the side. So what I did is I took a piece of pool noodle and just sliced down the center of it. Then I used zip ties to attach it to the top and the front of the drive unit. The rod stays in place even pedaling at full speed and in rough water. So now I can fit 5 rods horizontally, so 1 sitting on the drive unit and 2 on either side using the rod staging areas. I'm not sure how often or if I'll actually ever really do this, but the option's there and it might come in handy definitely on rivers where you have overhanging limbs. The one thing I don't like though is that the staged rods, the tips of them are out past the end of the boat. You can always lean forward when fighting a fish and get your rod tip out past the ends of the other rods, but it's just a little bit awkward, kind of like that sentence. I was getting a really loud squeaking sound from the seat material rubbing against the rear frame of the seat. Adding a piece of soft foam pipe insulation to the rear seat tube not only stopped the squeaking, but it's also more comfortable if you sit back against this part of the frame. I use pipe insulation for a 1-inch pipe, and I got the kind that's pre-slit and that has an adhesive that runs down the center of it. The Topwater has great built-in storage, but I'm used to having a catch-all tray that I can collect used soft plastics, hooks, crankbaits, things that I may transition back to, etc. So I took some rare earth magnets and I attached them under the storage lid on the drive unit. Then I taped another magnet to the inside of a plastic container. I leave this in place when I'm pedaling and when I'm fishing. With the magnet, it comes on and off really easily. Also, one bonus feature is when I throw my lures on there, it magnetizes the hooks. I never lose fish with those hooks. I was getting a pretty loud sound from the steering connection at the rudder. So what it was, it's the threaded connections that attach to the rudder itself. They were rubbing against the plastic. I unscrewed those connections, then I ran a short piece of heat shrink tubing over both of them. I screwed the linkages back in place, then I used a lighter to heat up the heat shrink tubing. It hasn't removed all the sound from the steering, but it's a whole lot quieter. Well, I hope you enjoyed that video and you got something that you can use out of it. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them down below. And look out for my next video on a kayak cart for the Topwater PDL. Now I hope you can go spend some time on the water.